A feeling we are going to have animal participation in this one if Luna keeps behaving the way she is. And there's Mal. Okay, well, we're doing this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of, I almost want to call it Pet Loop Back Off, but ChatLoopBackOff. This is a program that dives deep into the realms of the cloud native landscape. If we've never met before, hello. It's my pleasure to meet you, and thanks for joining me today. I'm your host, Jeffrey Sica, but many of you may know me as Jeefy. And there may be animals that join, and I'll introduce them as they go. The loudest one will probably be named Luna. I am, in honor of our upcoming Cloud Native Security Con, I am thrilled to have you join us today for an episode that's focused on Falco, which is a project in the Cloud Native ecosystem that's focused on runtime security. If you've never tuned into this live stream, welcome. This is a live stream that is a sibling of a similarly named thing that I do at live KubeCons called ClashLoopBackOff. In ClashLoopBackOff, it's an event that pits two community members against one another to try and accomplish a random technical challenge of my choosing. It's meant to be laid back, mainly for the audience, and generally, fun and kind of, technical whimsy. This stream is kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure version of ClashLoopBackOff. The idea behind it is one of the hosts, in this case me today, will pick a topic and learn it live. So with that goal in mind, I have not done any in-depth research on the topic. That's actually not correct in this case, but I'll explain in a minute. Instead, I normally like to dive deep into the topic with fresh eyes and learn as I normally would off stream. In doing so, we can hopefully all walk away having learned something new. During the live stream, please feel free to drop questions into chat. I'll get to as many as possible, usually in real time. We are here to learn together, so if you know the answer to something or I'm stuck and you have an idea for me to follow, please speak up, but don't feel pressured to. That said, this is an official live stream of the CNCF and is subject to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Please do not add anything to the chat or ask questions that would violate that Code of Conduct. Basically, please be respectful to fellow participants, to me, to anyone else that may see this up on YouTube afterwards. Getting to that, this video will be put up on our YouTube channel afterwards, so folks that couldn't make the live stream can still learn alongside with us, just asynchronously. And with that, I may or may not have mentioned that I try not to do any pre-work or pre-learning beforehand. Fact of the matter is, with Falco, I have done a bunch of work with Falco before. And actually, a bunch might be a bit of a stretch, but I used it many, many moons ago in something that we lovingly called Honk CTL. This is a little bit of deep lore, but Honk CTL was this idea of, originally, what if I exposed a Kubernetes cluster to kubectl commands via Twitter? And that kind of ballooned into all sorts of really interesting random things, one of which was multiplayer cluster, where everyone can interact with a single cluster at the same time. Some people are trying to protect the cluster, others are trying to absolutely own and just take the cluster down. It was a lot of fun. Much fun was had by all. One of the things that I had done as part of that was I had spun up Falco on the nodes of that cluster, and I was actually outputting all of the essentially Falco logs to a website in real time, so that people that were messing with the cluster could actually see what they were, what was happening to the node in real time. And also people that were trying to defend it could see what was happening in real time and try and fight, back and forth. It was kind of fun. So in this case, I have touched Falco. But the last time that I messed with Falco was, this is hard to spit out, like 6 years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see what has changed, what hasn't changed. Has anything actually changed? Is it as easy to spin up as before? And, as always, I like looking at their getting started guide to kick things off. So like I said, this is all in honor of Cloud Native Security Con, which is June 26th and 27th in Seattle. Please, if you are interested in cloud native security, maybe you're local, maybe you have some, I don't know, you're a globetrotter and want to travel out to Seattle. I know it's only in a couple weeks, but go ahead and register if you can. If not, we are certainly going to be trying to do some activities outside of Cloud Native Security Con, but still, related to Cloud Native security. I'm really on the fence about trying to spin up another honk CTL with this short notice, but I think my ambition might get the better of me and I might lose a weekend doing it. We'll see. Anyways, let me share my screen and we will get things going. Also, let me move that over there. Screen one. Share. Boom. Okay. As usual, I will write up the notes in a lovely little markdown. This will be things like what I think the project may be, what misconceptions I have and I educate myself on, as well as commands that we've run. Usually these are things that are in a getting started guide, but I do also kind of go off script to test some things and poke and prod around. I'll also write down any questions, musing, or ideas to potentially improve the project. So let me make sure that's big enough for everyone to read. But let's also, let me open up Chrome and open up their GitHub repo. Yep, that looks good. All right, so cloud native runtime security. What does that even mean? Falco detects security threats in real time. So moons ago, as I said, we would use this to essentially watch any and all syscalls being done by containers. I'm curious if there's more to it now or if they've simplified things, but generally that was, oh, what does Falco do? And you don't want to say cloud native security. That's what you would say in a nutshell. It watches the node for any syscalls and you can build rules around what's acceptable, what's not. So it's essentially watching the kernel. So, threat detection, detect malicious behavior in hosts and containers no matter what scale using eBPF. Hooray. Let's speed run to, is there a getting started? Try Falco on, let's do Kubernetes. And let me make that a little bigger to read. So Falco is designed to provide real-time notification of suspicious behavior. It can send these alerts to std-out, std-error. You can also have it hit like webhook endpoints. I know there are instances of it, dumping certain activity to like Slack channel, to Discord. Pretty much, you can point it to wherever you want as needed. So this walkthrough will use Helm. And we have to spin up a Kubernetes cluster. So I am running Linux, but I'm going to already go a little off script. Instead of using Vagrant or VirtualBox or K3s, I'm going to use Kind because that's still going to get me a valid Kubernetes cluster that I should be able to install Falco on and see what happens. Fingers crossed. Also, I need to close Slack because I am getting so many Slack notifications. All right, so let's fire this off with Kind create cluster. So I personally use Kind over things like K3s or Minikube, mainly because Kubernetes uses Kind for all of their CI, and I just like the user experience a little better. Yes, I also am friends with Ben the Elder, who wrote it, but honestly, if it wasn't as good, I would probably be using something else. I'm not that biased towards my own friends' stuff. But we now have a 1.30 cluster up and going, and we are selected into it. KCTX and KNS are just shortcuts that will let you list the context that you have and then the namespaces. And when you spin up a Kind cluster, it will automatically set your context to that Kind cluster. So it's kind of nice. And then we can get the namespaces out of it, and control plane is up and running. Cool. So we have created our Kubernetes cluster. We can kind of skip ahead to installing Falco using Helm. I am 99% sure I don't have Falco's Helm chart on here, so we have to add the Falco Helm repo. Repo update. And then we want to namespace Falco, create a namespace for it, and then we're going to install it in here. So let's just take a look at what values they're setting up. So use Helm to install Falco and Falco Sidekick. We are specifying the eBPF probe and information to forward any alerts with a priority higher than notice to our Slack server. So we're going to want to remove that. I'm not going to dump anything to Slack right now. Just know that I have a feeling there's going to be, hey, look, we actually did it and it's sent to Slack later on. I'm not going to point it to any of our Slack instances. So Helm install Falco. We'll set the namespace to the one we created. The driver is eBPF. Output things to CTY, and then set the sidekick enabled to true. What is the sidekick? Oh, so the sidekick is what actually will dump things to webhooks and whatnot. Is that all it does? Connect Falco to your ecosystem. The sidekick is a simple daemon for connecting Falco to your ecosystem. It takes Falco events and forwards them to different outputs in a fan-out way. That's hella sweet, to be honest. I like that. I like that it's a sidekick. I like that it's not baked into Falco. It keeps Falco smaller and clean. And also, like, it feels like you could kind of do your own thing if needed, but this is much nicer. Also, boop. Okay, well, given that, there's not really a need to install the sidekick. We just want to have it output to std out, std error, and nothing else. So this is, again, where I'm kind of deviating from the script of the getting started guide. So we'll run the Helm install, and then we'll just sit and watch the pod spin up. It's kind of like watching the paint dry. Get pods and Falco. Watch. So Falco agents are spinning up on each node of your cluster. After a few seconds, they're going to start monitoring your containers. No further action should be required. I'm curious what the init error is. I wonder if I've already broken this by using kind. You can easily forward Falco events to Slack, Kafka, Lambda, etc. Nice. Full list of outputs in that chart, and you can enable them there. All right. All right. Let's see what I did. Describe pod Falco. Oh. Okay, so let's look at logs. Oh, right, it's the init container. What's the init container's name? Falco driver loader. So building eBPF probe. I wonder if this is because kind is not running is not a privileged container. So I already love going off the rails. So let's see if there's an example we can Google that has Falco running in kind, because I'm stubborn. Falco Kubernetes kind. Well, that looks helpful. Oh, kind. Ah, yes. Okay. To run Falco on a kind cluster, we have to do a whole bunch of stuff that actually passes all the things that we want into the cluster so that it can actually build the kernel module. My bad. We're going to back up. Code, CLBO, ChatLoopBackOff, 2024-06-13. And then we are going to copy, paste, kind delete cluster, and then we're going to run through that whole Helm install thing one more time. All right, and let's just make sure things are up, not ready, not ready. Oh, it's responding to KNS. There it goes. Okay. We'll just look for Falco. And then give that one more shot. Which is going to fail because I didn't create the namespace in this new cluster. Create namespace Falco. Install, I say. Okay. So if we KNS Falco, get pods watch. Let's pop back over to here. I wonder if this is going to be the session where I pull a Jeremy and I spend the next 20 minutes debugging my Docker instance. This might be that session. And to anyone watching, I apologize. So what was the name of the container in that pod? All right, kubectl logs, Falco, C Falco driver loader. Still permission denied. What did I miss over here? Let's make sure it actually passed in the volumes that we wanted it to pass in. Because maybe I copy pasted things incorrectly. but I don't think I did because I see these right here. So host dev to dev, host Docker sock, Docker sock. Oh, I have to sneeze. We're going to flip a coin. Why is it throwing a 404 up there? Sorry, I just saw that, Marco. Where was it throwing a 404? I'm assuming it was in this. Falco driver. In the logs, yeah. Am I close? Oh, I am very close. Interesting. So it's trying to find a pre-built driver given my environment, and then it tries to compile one itself. So I wonder if I was in a not so spicy environment, if this would actually work a little better. So this might be an instance of, does Falco run well or have a driver for Fedora Silverblue? See, user side, billing. I'm also curious. So here's what I'm thinking right now. I'm going to flip a coin using the power of Google. Heads, I'm going to continue down this rabbit hole, and Marco, you got exactly what I was thinking. Heads, I'm going to mount sys into that kind container. Tails, I'm going to use Lima CTL to spin up a VM and do it. So heads is spicy, tails is Lima. Heads is spicy. Okay. We are going to modify this kind config and roll it again. Well, we tried. We failed. I mean, that was a bad idea in the first place. I'm kind of happy this doesn't work. Okay. Let's go back to the quick start guide and let's look at ye old Lima example. We're not exactly on a Mac, but hey, we'll get there. Also, clear that up. All right, didn't even get there. What? I installed Lima ages ago because I did that Lima episode. I am flabbergasted. confused even. Did I do that Lima episode on my MacBook? I might have done that Lima episode on my MacBook. Well, this will be interesting. Thank you, magical wizard behind the curtain. Katie, let me know. Yes, I did that on my MacBook. Katie, I know you're hidden behind the scenes, but remember how like 30 minutes ago I said I'm probably going to dial this in because I don't feel good, and now we have gone off the rails because I'm amused. Is it possible that your Docker socket is under run and var run is not linked to that? That is a fantastic question. Let us look. It is under var run. So that be there. Good idea. I would not put it past that happening and me not realizing it. So yeah. You know, sitting and watching the pod spin up is usually like the cloud native equivalent of watching the paint dry, but watching the brew pour, I don't have a really good analogy for that. It's just going to take a while. What's actually funny is it probably would have taken me less time to run upstairs, grab my laptop, come downstairs, and plug it in. But we're here. Mildly concerning. Let's see what happens. While that's going, all right, so whenever we get Lemur running, when prompted, choose current configuration and then export the kube config. Okay, so from there, once we get a K3S cluster going via Lima, we should be fine. I'm equally curious if I had spun up the cluster using K3S just natively, which maybe would have been a smarter path first, or at least a quicker path first, if that would have worked. Chat, do you know if you can run 2 brew installs at the same time? Is that a bad idea? That's probably a bad idea. I will not do that. I kind of want to, though. I'm flabbergasted this is taking as long as it is. Oh, yeah, that would make sense. I should actually read. That is pulling down all the images. That's not the client itself. Duh. Surely there's a brew recipe for this. Oh. Hmm. Lima looks like it's almost done. I'm just gonna yoink K3S. Which gets done sooner. Definitely a bad idea. This poor desktop. So I'm running, bit of a tangent. I'm running this operating system called Bluefin, which is based on Fedora Silverblue. It's the folks behind it is the Universal Blue crew, which is like George Castro and the folks that made Bazite. So it's all kind of like a container-based operating system, believe it or not. Just kind of a nice thing. How's everybody's day? I was woken up at like 3:30 last night because of very loud thunder. It was cool. I like storms. I like falling asleep to storms. I don't like getting woken up by storms. You know those carnival games where you're taking like a squirt gun and you're trying to hit a bullseye and you're trying to like move the horse to see which horse wins? This is the red horse and this is the blue horse. Oh, thanks, Marco. Hopefully this is at least mildly entertaining, if not, amusing because of the bad decisions that we're making. What is it? Mission Center. Oh. What? We have Lima. We have Lima before we have K3S. All right, well, the red horse won. I guess we're going with Lima. Oh, but do I just want to try native K3S? You're almost there. You can do it. Oh, nope, never mind. Oh? Nope, we're going to go with Lima. Sorry if I'm wishy-washy. Proceed with the current configuration. Oh, I'm so okay. It's at least not going to take forever. What? This might be an instance of me just shaking my fist into the sky and screaming George. So it looks like QEMU is not started, which I guess makes sense. We did just install it. Well, we're going to turn this into a K3S stream. Well, time to figure out how to spin up a cluster with K3S. Is this just going to be the same thing? Yeah, install script. And away we go. Okay. So, me bumbling through things, we now have a K3S cluster. The real question is, how do I get the kube config out? Run K3S server. Spins everything up. Cool. Agent, which we don't care about. We only need a control plane. Automatically use the kube config here. Excelente. Okay, so I want to, for sake of ease, do something bad. Cool. And then where was it? Of course, it's not going to work there. Get nodes. Okay. Where were we? We want to Helm install. I have a feeling that's not going to work, and I'm going to have to re-add these. Let's see if I'm right. Yep, because I'm running as root, which you should never do. So we now have Falco namespace in our K3S cluster. And this is all we want right here. We don't want any of the sidekick stuff. We're not going to be routing anything outside of std out. Let's see what happens this time. Fingers crossed. I think that's further than we've gotten because it looks like the first init pod is happy. Oh my goodness. Did we do it? Hey! Accidental K3S and Falco stream go. Let's wait for the second check. Yeah, finally. Like, from my perspective, I feel bad because I feel like I've wasted about a half an hour of time just diving into a rabbit hole. I do this off stream. This is kind of how I smash my head against the wall and learn stuff, but you also will get, hey, both health checks are good. You will also get instances where it's like, nah, you dummy, you should have done X, and that would have saved you a half an hour had you just followed the actual directions, not walk blindly into the forest. Cool. Falco is up. It is in our K3S cluster. Now let's see what they do. We can check the logs here. Get out of that. Cool. Falco initialized. There is a config file. Harkening back to the honk CTL stuff I was talking about before, we had a custom Falco config because we were only interested in watching certain syscalls. So you can configure things as needed through a Falco config, including the rules. Separate file, though. But looks like we are good. Health web server. $765. Meh. Okay, so let's simulate some suspicious activity. One of Falco's default alerts is if you try and run an interactive shell into a running container. In this section, you will copy paste a kubectl run command, and theoretically, Falco will be very upset. Oh, I'm going to need a second terminal for this. I already forgot what it was. Is it set a rancher? Yep. K3s.yaml. All right. Where were we? So we're going to run this over here. Oh, I already copied that. Pod will be created. I guess I didn't need multiple windows. Cool. Oh, okay. So we are going to actually we're going to, again, kind of go off their thing. We are going to watch the logs filtering on any notices. So we should be able to see this happen in real time. When I try and exec into the Alpine container, it should throw an angry JSON blob down there. Kind of did it, right? Oh, it wasn't JSON. It was just right to std out. Which, hey, perfect. Notice shell was spawned in a container with an attached terminal. Most of the time, that's a bad thing, especially if you're in production clusters. And then it gives a bunch of info. The user is root, which we were. The login UID is 1000. All the kind of info that you would want to figure this out, including the container ID. A little surprised it doesn't give some additional info, but I think that just might be because of how we have things configured. Like it doesn't have the pod name or the container image name, but again, in this example, I mean, it's dropping everything in there. Container ID, the pod name, the actual command that was, executed. I guess it does have that the command that's executed. There it is. So that's the simplest demo of Falco. Oh, and of course, at the bottom here, it does show, oh, look, we configured it to talk to Slack. We didn't, but still, you can. Congratulations, you finished that scenario. Why does it feel like I've been to war? It has any HTTP endpoint, right? Are you talking about Falco? So it did say, yeah. Let me ask that question, code guy. Were you talking about this endpoint, or are you talking about something else? So I'm curious what this actually is. I'm not sure if this is anything more than like a health Z check for the container. Let's try and find out. Well, that's not helpful at all. It's listening on 8765 on all hosts. Somewhere it says that it provides an HTTP or HTTPS endpoint for Falco alerts. Was that part of the sidekick? Because I don't know if that's the same thing as this 8765. Like, just based on the log output here, I would assume this is like how the Falco pod's health checks are, not serving additional info out of it. But also, here we go. See, true. Oh, of course that's not going to work. That's wow. Am I not exec into a pod? Could I not do that? Does Alpine have bash? Nope. Alpine doesn't have curl. Lame. I have no idea if K3S exposes these pods. I think it has to be configured first. Not sure if that's the same thing. Can I port forward? Yeah, probably. I just never remember the syntax for it. Well, that'll do. Address 0.0.0.0. N Falco pod slash. What's your pod name? Give me your little pod name. Oh, I just cookie. Oops. How long will this take to spin back up? How long will this take to spin back up, and will it spin back up with Falco running? Really? Okay. Let me shrink this. And Falco get pods. That's what I wanted. 8765, 8765. Yes, it survived. Cool. Localhost 8765. Yeah, okay. So it is only outputting a health Z for that pod. That's kind of what I was thinking. Then the question is, how do we get like Falco output via web? Falco logs website. Oh, no. Okay, so I think what this is you can specify that Falco will submit logs via like almost like a webhook. Let's see if I'm right. Shrink Falco outputs. Output channels, file outputs, syslog, Yeah, so if you'd like to send the alerts to an HTTP endpoint, you can do that, and then it's a webhook. Yeah, no worries. I mean, I would not have been surprised if there was an actual way to configure it to like show certain Falco output, but check Falco Sidekick UI. What do you have cooking? A simple web UI with the latest events from Falco. Snap. This is actually pretty sick. Here, let me make this a little bigger maybe. Oh, yeah, code guy. No. I think there, when I was looking through the config briefly, I did skim across a way to like open up metrics for Prometheus, but you have to specify it in the config. It was not on by default. As for this UI, I have mixed feelings on it. And this will probably be my parting thoughts before I kind of write down the notes and then call it. Dashboards like this are cool when you are developing Falco and when you are using Falco, or, and this is not Falco specific, this is for other projects, you are dealing with that project and only that project day to day. When you are dealing with data that Falco generates and then Prometheus and whatnot, you usually want some sort of aggregate layer. Like, you don't want to have to look at 5 different places to check the status of things. You usually want to try and get one place. That's one of the reasons why Grafana is kind of ubiquitous everywhere. I mean, Grafana is even being used by F1 teams for their telemetry data. So this is helpful if you're like trying to debug or drill down, but 9 times out of 10, you're not ever really wanting to hit Falco Sidekick UI. You want it to bubble up into some sort of dashboard that shows a bunch of other stuff. Or you're having it push notifications to you by the Sidekick container, and then you go and dig deep. All right. This is going to be kind of a fun write-up. So commands we ran. I'm going to actually kind of sum this up. First, we tried using kind and realized that was a bad idea given Jeefy's local environment. Then we tried using Lima, but had to install it because Jeefy forgot he used his. It promptly crashed and burned since QEMU was unhappy with his local environment. Finally, we spun things up with raw native K3S and do one of these. Oh, what's the thing? There it is. Whoop. Made sure that we could do that. We also did a Helm. You have to go back, Marty. There we go. Helm repo. There we go. Make sure that's good. Helm repo add, Helm repo update, create the namespace. And then it's pretty much the getting started guide from there. So we create that container. We exec into it, and then we can see the notice. Whew. That was a whole lot. Code Guy says, I'm using Grafana for all the things from cloud to product and cost management. Falcon can be there too. Yep. Having that single pane of glass, I hate saying that, is honestly the best way to live your life. Otherwise, you're going crazy. Logs command should be before the exec. You are correct. And then in a separate terminal. Thank you, thank you. Okay. What other questions or musings do we really have? Well, musings. Pane of glass. Falco sidekick UI is cool. So, all right. Somehow I managed to actually get this right up to the hour. That blows my mind. Thank you, everybody, for this wacky old journey of me debugging and not following directions. I believe, do we know what's going on next week? So George Castro is taking over some of the organizings of this. I think next week is Karmata Part 2 with Carlos, and we will have George kind of riding as his sidekick and bugging him as they go along. That should be really good. Also, it should be 12 p.m. Pacific, if I'm reading this right. So, yay. Hopefully, I will see a bunch of you there. Hopefully, this is not too crazy. And I hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday, a good Friday, and a good relaxing weekend. I'm going to be trying to do the whole relaxing bit. We'll see. All right.